And I'm Marshall, and this is Twin Cinema.
Okay, so as we said last time, our theme for this month is Adaptation April. And as probably most people in America are aware, Disney has remade their 90s classic Beauty and the Beast into a live-action film. So we're going to tap into that zeitgeist with our selection this month. Though we're not going to be reviewing one of the Disney versions. We're going to be doing one really famous version and one more obscure.
Yes, we're going to be reviewing the 1946 Jean Cocteau classic La Belle et la Bête, which is French for Beauty and the Beast, and the more obscure, at least to American audiences, Panna a Netvor, a Czech film by Juraj Herz. Sorry for the mispronunciation if it's wrong. Feel free to correct us, Czech viewers. Which is a bit different, and this review is going to be different than our normal review because it's basically, both of these films are telling the same story. They're both an adaptation of the same story, and they hit the same main beats. So we are going to give an overview of the Beauty and the Beast story for the 5, Western audience members who haven't heard it. And then we're going to be doing a compare-contrast of how the movies are similar and what they do differently.
Yeah, and so instead of, usually we review the movies separately, like as their own entities, and then the next review is comparison. This one we're going to do the comparison in this review, and the next one we're going to try to actually branch out into more film and representations, talk about the original fairy tale, and go into a little more in depth. So we are excited to do that, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it as well. So quickly, we're going to give that quick synopsis. In a small town, there lives a wealthy merchant with 3 daughters. 2 daughters are greedy and selfish, while the other is modest and kind. One day, the merchant loses all of his wealth due to large shipments of goods being destroyed. The merchant goes off to another town to try and win back his fortune, and on the way home, he stumbles upon a seemingly uninhabited castle. The merchant is waited on by invisible servants, and he receives shelter for the night. As he prepares to head home, he spies a single rose, and he plucks it to give to his kind daughter. Out of nowhere, the castle's owner, a hideous beast, appears and tells the man he will be killed for picking the rose, unless one of his daughters agrees to take his place. The man goes home, and when the kind daughter learns of what happens, she goes to take her father's place at the castle. While initially horrified by the beast's appearance, she begins to grow fond of him. The woman fears for her father's health and begs the beast to let her go home to see him. The beast agrees, but tells her if she does not return, he will die of loneliness. The woman returns to her father, and her 2 sisters are jealous of the riches that she wears. The woman stays longer than she originally promised, but does return to the beast. At the castle, she finds the beast on the verge of death, but her love revives him, and he transforms into a handsome prince. They live happily ever after. Alright, so let's just do a quick comparison about the differences between the movies. So one of the biggest differences is the way in which love interests play in the films. In La Belle and la Bête, Belle has a suitor, right? Avenant. There's no suitor for Belle, or Julie, as she's known in Panna a Netvor. And so I think that's really interesting, because I feel like, most Americans think of probably the Disney version, which has Gaston, which Avenant is kind of an analog for, but not.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. Why do you feel like the Czech version, do you think the Czech version is missing anything by not having a, love interest for Belle that's not the Beast?
I don't know if it's missing anything. It is really interesting because it doesn't give the film a villain like La Belle et la Bête does. Because in La Belle and la Bête, there's a villain in the sisters, and then there's a villain in Avenant and Ludovic. But there's really no villain in Panna a Netvor, which I think gives the 2 films totally different vibes, like what they're going for. In Panna, it's more of an internal struggle, whereas in La Belle et la Bête, the struggle comes from outside the relationship.
It's completely external.
It's completely external, and it is interesting how Avenant is the love interest, but then becomes a villain, even though he's not really a villain in a traditional sense.
Right. I don't find him to be a compelling... So I feel like in both films, the real villain are the sisters.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're not really... They're very passive antagonists. They're only antagonists insofar as in both films, once the beauty character comes back and she has these riches, and then they can't have them for themselves. They just kind of antagonize her. They're not antagonists insofar as like they're really the sisters in La Belle and Bête a little more.
They're definitely they're active. They come up with plots. They trick Belle. In Panna and Netvor, really you just see them in that one scene when she comes back, and they're gone for the rest of the film.
And it's so weird because they're so nice
at the beginning.
Strašně vám to sluší, sestřičky. Teď si na řadě ty.
And then it's like, it's really just that they get better, right? After they lose their fortune.
Yeah.
To tatínkovi pomohlo. Jak je ušlechtila. Kdyby to tatínkovi pomohlo, prodala by i poslední hrneček bez ouška.
Which I liked. They made them less cartoon villains.
Because they're so cartoonishly villainy in La Belle and Bête.
Yeah.
Voilà ce qui arrive quand une sotte demande qu'on lui apporte des roses. Voilà ce que produit l'orgueil de cette petite créature.
Et qui veut faire la modeste et nous donner des leçons. Elle ne pleure même pas.
And there's one thing that I did enjoy more about about La Belle and Bête is, even though I really love Panna and Netvor, I will say the middle kind of drags because it's just those two kind of going back and forth. Whereas plot, it gives more of a plot. It does add, the film is bettered by a subplot with the family.
Agreed. There's definitely not much of a subplot, especially, well, I think it's kind of weird because Panna and Netvor really focuses in the beginning of the film on the families losing their fortune.
Yeah.
It like is very drawn out.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's uninteresting, I think it is, and especially because the filmmaker, the director, really puts in some gorgeous visuals, like the visuals of when the treasure is lost.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
one of the most beautiful scenes, I think, on film. And, you know, that said, after Julie leaves, the family subplot's resolved. The fortune's returned because the beast has given the father all these jewels that he sells, and they make them rich again. And the daughters get married to the men of their dreams, in quotes. And really, instead of serving as an antagonist to Julie, the sisters serve as sort of this morality play because they get their quote-unquote happy ending, but it's not happy. You know, they're still greedy, they're still selfish, and their husbands are obviously cheating on them and don't respect them.
Yeah.
And so you can compare that to Julie, who, you know, because she took this, you know, she was modest and not selfish and not greedy. She got the true happy ending, as opposed to like getting what you think you want and not actually, it actually be not such a great thing.
Totally. So it also leads us to the fathers. I think the father in La Belle and Bête is a much better person than the father in Panna and Netvor, because Cocteau gives the father a reason not to go after Belle. Or not Belle, Belle. Sorry, I forgot which movie we were talking about. He has a reason for him not to go after Belle. He is sick. He's too sick to move. So that gives him a reason not to look for Belle, and he can't tell the other family members where Belle is, so they can't look for her either, because it's, you know, they got lost. Whereas in Panna and Netvor, we don't know why he doesn't go back to him.
Yeah, I mean, one would assume that it's the idea of, like, he made a promise, right? And it's fairy tale logic, let's be honest.
Totally.
But let's kind of move more into, you know, we talked about the family as a whole for a little bit. Let's talk about the different beauty characters.
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing I did find about Panna and Netvor is that I felt like the beauty character was way more passive. Or at least in terms of, like, the beast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like she really accepts her situation quickly. She comes to love the beast quickly, with very little effort on the beast's part, really, because she's sort of like right away like, oh, I love the sound of your voice.
Yeah.
Pravějte. Ráda vás poslouchám. Máte hezký hlas.
Part of me wonders if that's a bit of an act, or if she's trying to put on a brave face. because there are moments where she says, like, I hate you, I'm alone, and then you don't even let me look at you.
Proč nic neříkáte? Přicházíte sem večer co večer a já se nesmím ani ohlédnout, nesmím vás vidět. Nenávidím vás.
So there's things about, it almost feels like she kind of likes him, but she also resents him more than Belle does in La Belle et Bête. And then when she sees the beast form, and I think that's another part of it, she doesn't see him. She just thinks he's kind of playing a game, or thinks he's just like an ugly person.
Right, not a beast.
Not a beast, yeah. When she does it, she's like, oh yeah, you're still, we can make this work. And then she's like, no, I can't do this, and she leaves.
Neodcházejte. Nestůjte ke mně zády. Otočte se. Ne. Jděte pryč.
Yeah.
So it does kind of make her a bit more realistic. Maybe she has a lot of hesitations, but she's just trying to make it work because she did make this promise. But I feel like Belle is much more realistic all throughout. She's horrified when she sees the beast. Of course, the beast shows himself way earlier. She is nice-ish to him, but she's also kind of... I don't want to say she's mean, because I think she's acting in a way that is actually really understanding for someone who's keeping you basically prisoner.
Yeah, she definitely stands up for herself.
Yeah.
Pourquoi êtes-vous dans ma chambre?
Je suis venu dans votre chambre vous apporter un cadeau.
A lot, and but she puts on a great face. But I think part of it's just the acting, because the actress who plays Belle in La Belle et Bête, like that scene with the beast is like, "Are you afraid?" And like she's obviously like trembling.
N'ayez pas peur.
Je n'aurai pas peur.
So let's move on to the beast.
Yes.
So the beasts are very different in the film. First of all, let's talk about the beast design. So obviously, and we'll talk about this more in the next video as we put like the whole thing into a greater context. But the beast in La Belle et Bête is way more mammalian, very cat-like features.
Yes.
Even though he's beastly, the features are still more human.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the beast in Panna and Netvor is so cool. I love it. I love how it's like bird.
Yeah.
Like it's this bird creature that's so different from any other like beast.
And not even like a beautiful bird, like a really gross, almost corpse-like bird. But he's truly a horrifying creature. And I think that the title, it makes the titles make more sense, because he's not a beast. In Panna and Netvor, Netvor doesn't mean beast, it means monster.
And he's monstrous.
In both look and action. Because the beast in La Belle et Bête does not kill. You don't see him kill anyone. You see him threaten the father, but he doesn't kill him. And you don't see him kill any person. You just see him kill a doe or a stag. He would have done anyway as a human, just with a bow and arrow instead of his claws. But the first time you see any part of the beast, he kills a woman.
Yeah.
And he wants to kill Julie.
Vidíš to bílé hrdlo? Ty přece znáš sladkost krve.
And that's what I think what I really love about Panna and Netvor is that I feel like in a lot of the adaptations you see, and like in La Belle et Bête, everything is from the beauty perspective. And obviously the majority of the film is more from the beauty perspective in Panna and Netvor, but you get these great scenes where the monster is like, you can hear him talking in like his animal and his human side are fighting it out.
Zvířecí zvyky tě omezovali, ale zároveň chránili.
Ale můj hlas je lidský.
To je tvé prokletí. Ani pták, ani zvíře, ani člověk.
And it really presents him in this great, like, liminal space, somewhere between monster and human, unable to really exist in either world. And what I also really loved about Panna Netvor is the way in which just Julie's touch made part of him human.
Co se stalo?
Like, as he's reaching out and connecting with somebody, it humanizes him, which I think is just such a really cool thing. And it's like in The Belle and the Bête, like the Beast, you don't really see that struggle. He's like ashamed that he has to drink out of like her hands like an animal, and that he kills things as, you know, his body smokes with shame. But he's already really noble, and except for those like, you know, those like kind of weird mannerisms that are animal-like. But like in terms of his demeanor, he's very noble, very human. I feel like there's just less of an arc for the character.
Oh, totally. Well, The Belle and the Bête is more of Belle's story, and Panna Netvor is more of the Beast story. So I think that's the point of it. It works. I will also say both the actors in both films do a really good job of conveying emotion through the prosthetics.
Yeah, and the eyes especially.
Especially the eyes. Especially the most striking scene in Panna Netvor is when Julie is at the gates and she almost leaves, and you see the Beast, and he's just looking at her, and you can just see the despair in his eyes when he thinks
Right.
she's going to leave. And it's amazing.
It's so good.
He's so human and yet so monstrous. It's just wonderful. And then my favorite acting scene for The Belle and the Bête is when Beauty and the Beast are talking, and the Beast can sense a doe in the forest, and you see like his ears move, and you can see he's distracted, and he's trying not to be. He's trying to fight off his urges. It's really subtle, but it's really effective.
Totally. And, you know, I think it's... I also kind of like... And this is kind of the difference where Julie doesn't have a love interest outside the Beast. Because in La Belle and the Bête, there's that pretty obvious thing. Like, there's that total setup where... oh, yes, that's Siegfried, everybody.
Speaking of our beasts.
So there's a total setup where, you know, Belle goes, well, some men hide their beastliness better than others. And then, of course, you know that, like, you know, Avenant, it becomes the Beast. And that's a great, like, little, like,
Oh, I love
effects.
that shot. And it's so... It's just such beautiful symbolism that's so simple.
So, yeah, let's kind of wrap this discussion up and just talk about, you know, which one do you have a preference for either version?
I mean, I love them both. And I kind of want to talk about the tone for a second, because what really makes me choose Panna Netvor, because I do prefer Panna Netvor just slightly, is the tone. Because it's a gothic horror movie for most of the film. It's dark, it's grimy, the castle is run down, the servants are like these weird demons that cause like flames to shoot out. There's this really disturbing shot where Julie is drugged and you see these people putting like her in a bed, which is like a coffin. It's just creepy, and it gives a sense of horror that I've never seen in any other Beauty and the Beast adaptation. Because Jean Cocteau's La Belle and the Bête is just pure fantasy throughout. Everything's gorgeous. And it's a treat for the eyes. It really is. But everything's gorgeous.
And it still is, like, you know,
amazing
now, what,
effects.
70 years later?
Yeah.
The effects still hold up. Pluses for practicals. The prosthetics still look good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're fake, obviously, but whatever. Yeah, so, I mean, I agree with you. I slightly prefer Panna Netvor. I think it just adds something different.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a kind of, the story is told visually and in the character-driven way of the Beast is just so different from the way it's normally told that I really appreciate. And I don't know, there's something about like kind of the world building that it has. Like I love that, you know, opening shot of the village, and it just like paints this world, and it's so realistic, and I like that because it gives it kind of grounds this very fantastic story into sort of a real environment.
I agree. Now that's not I do really enjoy the fairy tale.
Yeah, I do too.
The Belle Bête is more of a fairy tale than Panna and Netvor, and that works. It's not supposed to be realistic. The characters aren't supposed to be realistic.
And it's exactly what, I mean, Cocteau in his little opening text scroll wants you to do.
Yeah, it's like, this is the story, just treat it like one. So, they both have felt the different side of me. There is a side of me that really loves surreal, unrealistic, complete escapism. And then there's a part of me that really likes the grimy, more as realistic as a film about a monster can get. But I have to say it for Panna and Netvor. But obviously, get them both. You can easily get La Belle and La Bête on DVD or Blu-ray through the Cartoon Collection. Panna and Netvor is harder to get, but you can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
So.
And if you're in Chicago, you can rent it from Odd Obsession. This was not sponsored. I just love Odd Obsession. So
Yes.
if you're in Chicago, please go visit it.
Totally support it.
Anyway, so I think that's it for our review today. We're really looking forward to doing our more sort of omnibus talking about the Beauty and the Beast story and other adaptations. As always, please like and subscribe to our channel and listen to the Alcohollywood podcasts on tap and regular Alcohollywood. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Bye.